Hello, awesome folk. What are you going to do to make today great? Do let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you're struggling today, there is always hope. So have in your heart and your mind good thoughts, and you too will get through a terrible time. So time does heal. You may still have sad memories, but move on. You cannot deal with tomorrow while you're still hanging on to yesterday. Okay, let's see what we've got coming up on today's live. The first thing we're going to do today is I have so many fun questions. I've decided to do a whole load of them starting from today. So there will be a whole load of fun questions. We have story time, and it's today story time is going to be talking about a particular time in history. So another fun look at that. We have Friday film footage, which today is going to show you some of my doll's house village when I was cleaning it all out. So if you like cleaning, sorting, that kind of video, but you also like to see doll's houses, then you will see that. So not only do I clean out my own house, I clean out my doll's houses, just take everything out, and you'll see all the furniture in there. Mostly I put them back as they were, but I do like to move things around sometimes. And you will also see a little sneak preview, if you already haven't seen it, where I'm doing a series at the moment, my memories, my childhood memories growing up, the late 60s and the 1970s. And I talk about my doll's house in the upcoming episode, and you will see that at the end, a sneak preview of the doll's house I had from when I was very small. We of course have Quote Corner today, a new quote for Fridays for the time being, and of course we will do quiz time, and it's a very interesting subject for the quiz today. And do let me know in the comments how many you got right. Did you learn something new today? Let me know. So let's begin straight away, and let's begin first of all with a whole load of fun questions. And do check out my other channel, New Beginnings, My Everyday Life in Rural Cyprus, where I do loads of Q&As. If you've got questions for me, whether they're fun or serious, or you're just curious, then do let me know in the comments, and I may well add those to a future video where I do Q&As. It could be on anything at all. Okay, so the first question is, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? Ooh. Ooh, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be? Oh, I wish it was more than one thing. Now, for me, it's physically, anything physically. Let me think. Right now I'm really struggling with my lupus, and I've just blown out all over, and I absolutely hate that, and there's not really anything I can do about it. That is one of the side effects of one form of lupus which I have. So it doesn't matter how much you exercise, although that's a struggle these days, but it doesn't matter how much you exercise, how little you eat. If any of you know about my story about lupus, it is on my other channel, New Beginnings, My Everyday Life in Rural Cyprus. Just type in my channel name that I've just said, and then put lupus, and it should come up the video. my struggle with that, you will know if you've seen the video, there's barely anything I can eat. And since I've been eating barely anything, I've just blown up in size. I would say at least 3 times my size. And we're talking really from sort of waist downwards, everywhere. Just like, I just bloat out, if you like. So that, I'm not complaining about the illness because it's one of my least troublesome illnesses and conditions. So I'm just saying about the size when I can't do anything about it. So there's one thing to be overweight, which I'm not, but it's when you choose not to do anything about it. And I am doing on my dance channel videos for how you can exercise even if you're disabled or stuck in bed or in a wheelchair. So I'm taking my own advice. It's not helping at all, but there you go. So that I would also like to be as fit as I was, which, if you know, I've got brain damage and I fall down several times a day along with other situations. So yeah, if I change anything about myself, it would be looks, not for beauty reasons, but how old do you think you are, as in you feel in your head? I was saying to Mike, apart from my disability issues, I feel like I'm only, I don't know, my 30s, maybe early 40s at a push, and yeah, 59. Yes, so 59. No, when you think I'm going to be 60, I'm going to be 60 in December the 6th, I'm going to be 60. Do I look 60? I don't think I look 60. To me, that's always a really old grandma. I'm not even a grandmother. I'm not even a grandmother. I don't even have children. I think part of that is why in my mind I'm younger, because I don't have any children. So obviously you're not seeing your children grow up, become adults, and then you think, oh yes, I'm old. I don't have that. Yeah, so I don't think I look like I'm going to be 60. What do you think? Tell me how old you think I look. And sometimes I see people, let's say YouTubers, for example, and you think, oh, look, that's a lovely, nice little old lady. And then at some point they reveal their age. You're like, crikey, they're like 10 or more years younger than me. So yeah, I've got the wrinkles. I've got, as I say, a lot of it is from lupus that I've swollen up everywhere. But yeah, so I would say looks, not for vanity reasons, but because I'm not who I was before all my illnesses. So I think that's well answered, that first one. The next question is, use 3 feeling words to describe your best friend. Well, my best friend has to be Mike, my husband. So 3 feeling words. Kind-hearted. He always looks out for me. I'll come in from watering the garden and he would have laid all breakfast stuff out. It's those little things that mean a lot. Those little tiny things. Or when we're going to have lunch, he'll put out on the table my tablets. I always have one of these every meal, and then I fill it up in between. This is 1,000 millilitres. Yes, 1,000 millilitres, which is 34 ounces. And as I say, I have one with every meal, and I fill it up in between every meal and drink that. He'll fill that up if it's standing on the side somewhere. He'll put that out. Just those little tiny things. So all these couples who don't have money do those little sweet things. When we lived in England, I used to put a little love note in his lunchbox, and just those things. So kind-hearted, another word for him. Loving, very loving. Just today, he just came up. I was sitting here doing something. He just came up. He just gave me a hug. very loving. Though I would say I was more loving than him in that respect. Dependable. And I mean that in a really nice way. Dependable as in I could let him go to a party that's full of young, beautiful, beautiful women, and I've got no worries about anything like that. It helps I'm a lot younger than him, so that helps anyway. But yes, definitely dependable. And if I need something, he might say, "Oh, what?" when I go in, but he will do it. He will do it. So anything I need or want, he won't come for walks with me. He doesn't like that. But, you know, mostly if I wanted something, then he would do his best to make it or make it happen where possible. So that's the 3 words. What 3 words would you use for your best friend? And who is your best friend? Is it a friend? Is your best friend someone you haven't seen for years and years, but you know you can jump straight back in, slot right in, and continue where you left off? Best friend doesn't mean you see them all the time. The next question is, you and your friend come to a door. What's behind it? Ooh. Let's say a ship or a plane, some good mode of transport that is going to whisk you away to a deserted, beautiful, tropical island where you've got to stay for at least a month. That would be nice, wouldn't it? I just hope I've got the right attire with me. What's your answer? Tell me in the comments. The next question is, which animal would you like to be? A dog, a cat, an eagle, or whale? Well, seeing as I'd like to have an instant travel transporter, I guess an eagle. They could fly. I think they can fly a pretty long way. So maybe an eagle. And I do like looking down. I wish I had a drone. I'd love a drone. But you know how you see down landscape when I used to be able to fly? I used to go in planes, and I like that looking down just as you're coming towards landing, not actually landing, and you see all fields, and you even see little things in the water. And as you get nearer to the sea, you realize it's people in the sea. So yeah, I would have to pick an eagle out of all those. Or second choice, a cat, one of my cats, because I could still live here. So cat is the second choice. The next question is, which animal best describes you? Ooh, a bear, a deer, a rat, or a swan? Ooh. Oh, I know. I wasn't sure at first. A deer, because I love my rural landscape. It's full of nature. There's pine forest, it's mountainsides. And I do often say I'm like a gazelle or a goat or a deer, something like that, when I go on my walks. Yeah, that's easy then. It's a deer. My answers are quite repetitive in the theme. But a bear, because I like to cuddle. A bear. A deer is my answer. A rat, no, why would I want to be a rat? And a swan, no, I like the water, but no, definitely a deer. That was easier to answer than I thought. Okay, next question. Which food fits you best? So what describes you? What type of food are you? A steak, yeah, I'm pretty meaty. Hot dog, I do like a hot dog, but that's not the question. Apple pie, oh, apple pie. Mashed potatoes, one of my top foods. Or chocolate mousse, chocolate mousse. I love all those foods, but which fits you, as in what food best describes you? If I had to say which one of those foods normally, I'd say apple pie because I like sauces and cream and things like that. But that's not the question. Which food best describes you? A steak? No. Hot dog? No. So we've got it down to 3. Chocolate mousse? No, it's a bit slushy, isn't it? Mashed potatoes sounds like you've been a bit pounded. So apple pie, because I like to think I'm quite sweet and most people like me. People look forward to seeing me. Apple pie. That's my answer. Tell me yours. And why? Of course, if you're picking one of those, I want to know why. The next one, food related again. Which food is happy? Which food is happy? Any dessert. Any dessert. Any dessert is happy as long as it's not got nuts on. Something really indulging. We have something out here called black and white. And it's like a gâteau, a dessert, but it's like dark chocolate mousse and layer of very thin sponge and white chocolate mousse. Black and white. So if I've got to pick one thing, black and white. Which food is sad? Anything that's got spoiled by either being too dry. I like my sauces. A lovely dessert and then it's covered in nuts. Got to pick one food. Something like bubble and squeak, and that is, if you don't know, I think it's potato. When you finish, say, a Sunday dinner and you've got leftovers, potato and greens, normally things like Brussels sprouts or cabbage mixed in with it. And I don't know, my mum used to cook it, but I refused to eat it. I think it's Brussels sprout. It might be able to be any greens, I'm not sure. And you just heat it up and mix it up. I don't know. That's called bubble and squeak, and it stinks when you make it. Maybe it was Brussels sprouts. So let's say bubble and squeak. But if I've got to pick an actual food item, Brussels sprouts, they have no place. Which food is excited? Squirty cream. Squirty cream. Which food is stressed? Well, it's going to be a food that no one wants. Burnt food. Anything that's burnt, like badly burnt, like really burnt toast, or when it's gone completely black and charcoal. It's got to be that, hasn't it? Okay, let's do one more question for today. Give a title for a book written about you. Maybe I could play on my name, which is Dawn. Like my other channel name, Dawn, the New Beginnings, or the beginning of the dawn, something like that. Because as you know, on this channel, I'm doing my childhood memories, the beginning of the dawn. I would publish it in a book, the beginning of the dawn, or something like that. It would be something like that. And then it doesn't really give it any scope as it can only be about this. It would be about my life and my memories. That's why I'm doing the playlist of my childhood memories on this channel. I didn't want to bother to write it down, so I thought doing it as a video, it's there. I can add pictures and write it down. As I say, I've got no children, so I could write it down. No one would see it ever. And if someone came to clear the house out when we passed on, they'd probably just toss it and it'd never get seen. So it could be hours and hours of work. So I thought make a video on it. So do check that out. My childhood memories, I think it's called, the playlist, and I'm about to film and edit the next one. So do look at that. It's very funny, the one I'm just editing. So that's really good. Okay, let's go on because time's getting on. Let's go on. My poor husband, he goes out doing the food shopping while I do my lives, and just as he was about to drive away before I started, he had a puncture, an absolute flat tyre. So he had to whip and do that. Okay, let's go on to this. So as I said at the beginning, this is decluttering, not my house, but my doll's houses. So you'll see some of those in it as well. So get out there after this video and go and do some decluttering. Even if you only sort one drawer out a day, you will get there. So I hope you enjoyed that little footage for today. As we say, every Friday we have a little bit of film footage, and maybe next week we will do some more of those fun questions that I did at the beginning of the live. But let's quickly go to today's quote corner, and this is a new one currently for Fridays. And that toolbox there reminds me that I have posted the first part and coming up the second part of a toolbox that I found dumped at the local dump in a skip, and I salvaged it, and I have been totally transforming it. You won't believe the transformation. So check those videos out, part 1, and that will be followed by part 2. Let's go on to this. So today we're going to talk about England in the Second World War, the air raids and the air raid shelters, the air raid precaution. And it says, apart from invasion, the greatest threat to people in Britain was the air raid. The early fears were as much of poison gas attacks. They really thought that was happening. They had masks to every single person in the country, and they carried them around in little brown boxes. They also thought there would be explosive bombs. Almost from day one of the war, civilians were issued with gas masks and instructions on how to use them. And like you have fire drills, they often would have, particularly in schools, offices, and factories, gas drills. About 1.5 million volunteers worked in various civil defence agencies. You had the ARP Wardens. This was a new organisation, Air Raid Precaution, ARP. It was set up in 1939. It had about 500,000 members. The ARP Wardens supervised the blackout, where householders had to make sure no light was visible from their windows after dark, and ARP Wardens could fine people for showing a light. They didn't just go, oh, you're showing light. It was a very major thing. They would get really into trouble, shouted at, and all their neighbours told that they were risking their street. They also organised patrols during raids to check for bombs, such as fire bombs. The ARP Wardens often organised teams of local people with buckets of sand to fire watch for these bombs during raids. Factories and large buildings were especially vulnerable, of course. The government produced a great deal of advice about air raids. Source 27 gives an idea of how the wartime household might look. And that was it. For example, windows had to be taped against damage from splintering glass, and you had to have blackout curtains inside. Fireplaces had to be sealed against poison gas. I didn't know that one. Doors also had to be sealed against gas. Windows had to be sandbagged against bomb blast. Any cracks in walls and floors had to be sealed against gas with paper and paste. Ceilings supported with wooden props for strength. I didn't know that one. and your doorway had to be shielded by earth-filled soap boxes and fencing. And then saying about the shelters, a major problem was the provision of effective air raid shelters. The government had provided some public shelters, but there was not enough of them. Part of the problem was the government most feared high explosive bombs and gas attacks. Nobody realised that the most destructive weapon would be the incendiary bomb. The government was against deep shelters because of the risk if the shelters themselves were hit. It also feared that the population would simply hide in them and never get out and get on with the war effort. Critics also pointed out that deep shelters were costly, and the main people to benefit would be the poor in the densely packed areas of the cities, who would not have contributed as much as others to the cost. Oh dear. 2 million Anderson shelters were provided, along with a government grant to encourage people to build them. The Anderson shelters undoubtedly saved thousands of lives by protecting people from shrapnel and flying glass. However, they had serious weaknesses and were not much protection from falling masonry. In 1939, Stepney councillor Phil Puritan set up an Anderson shelter outside the War Department in London and got a boxer to punch a hole in the shelter to make his point. Many poorer people had no gardens in which to build the Anderson shelters. The government provided 500,000 Morrison shelters from 1941. These could be set up indoors, usually under the stairs. Blackout. Another feature of the air defence measures was the blackout. Homes had to black out, but so did shops, businesses, and even trains and cars. The number of road accidents doubled in September 1939, but in time, people got used to operating in the blackout. And then here's a little extract from Mrs. Milburn's diaries. During the week, we were called up by the air raid wardens, who found our blackout insufficient, and still more curtains had to be made. A very definite blackout was obtained at the bay windows by covering the whole bay with a great black pall. The lack of ventilation was stifling in hot weather, but it is wonderful how one can conform to an order when it is absolutely necessary to do so. And then a poster of the time was a black cat with one eye slit very small and the other wide pupil. And it says, "Until your eyes get used to the darkness, take it easy. Look out in the blackout." So I hope you enjoyed that. If it told you something you didn't know, if you're not from England, then hopefully you've learned something today. Okay, let's go on to this. Okay, just getting my quiz set up. And today we will do, for the quiz, flags. We have done flags once before, but these are different questions on flags. As usual, I'm going to read them all out first and then see if you can answer them before I give the answers. The first question is, which sport uses flags? Is it rugby, cycling, or rowing? Which sport uses flags? Rugby, cycling, or rowing? Which one's there? Question 2. What are navy flags called? Didn't know they had a name. I'm thinking of something. maybe it's that. The next question is, what event prompted the redesign of the French flag? Ooh. Which event prompted the redesign of the French flag? And shame on you if you live in France and you don't know the French questions. I hope if you're an expat living in a different country, you do your best to learn both the language and the history. The next question is, are signalling flags used alone or together? Are signalling flags used alone or together? Now, I was a brownie and I know the answer. The next question is, what is semaphore? What is semaphore? The next question, how many US flags have been placed on the moon? And you've got three options. Is it 4, 5, or 6? How many US flags have been placed on the moon? 4, 5, or 6? And the last question today, which colour is not used in navy flags? Yellow, black, or green? Which colour is not used in navy flags? Yellow, black, or green? Okay. So if you're watching this back later, of course, you can pause it or even rewind a bit to get those questions again. But I'm going to go straight on to the answers. And don't forget, if you're watching this back later, do drop a comment and say hello. Then I can come and find your channels if you have a channel. So the first question was, which sport uses flags? Rugby, cycling, or rowing? And the answer is all three. Now, you can only get a point if you said that, not picked one or two of them, only if you said all three. The next question was, what are navy flags called? Signalling flags. Well, that's all I would have said. I thought maybe that had a special name. They're signalling flags. The next question was, what event prompted the redesign of the French flag? And if you think about history, if you don't know much about French history, you could have come up with the answer. Of course, it was the French Revolution. The next question is, are signalling flags used alone or together? And the answer is both. So only get a point if you said both, not if you picked one or the other. Both. They're used separately and together. The next question is, what is semaphore? And of course, that's signalling using flags. That's something else we did in brownies. I remember they start down and then you go like diagonally down, then up, up, up. So it's like the hands of a clock. Then you do the other one going up the other side, and then they go round together. And I think there are some other symbols, but I remember that. Where were we up to? There. So the next question was, how many US flags have been placed on the moon? 4, 5, or 6? Did you get this? The answer is 6. It's 6. That's quite a lot. Which colour is not used in navy flags? Is it yellow, black, or green? And the answer is green. Did you get that one? Let me know. Always interested to know. And for those that are asking, saying they can't get the comments, the chat up afterwards, that is the link running on the ticker tape to my other channel. It's different content. There's some crossover stuff, similar things now and then, but not the same, like goats, for example, or feeding the horses, because I've got a lot of footage of that. Sometimes you see a bit on both channels. Recipes. I have a recipe playlist on New Beginnings, My Everyday Life in Rural Cyprus. I also have a recipe playlist on this channel, but they are different recipes. So there are some crossovers, but not always. So do go and check out that. And I'm pleased to announce I'm almost at 5k on my other channel. Can you just check you've subscribed to it, even if you think you have done? Because I've done that in the past. There's channels I know I'm subscribed to. Sometimes they do click off for some strange reason. So now and then when I go on a channel, I do just check, and some of you will see that I've just resubscribed. I didn't unsubscribe. I noticed I hadn't subscribed. So do check, even if you think you are subscribed to both my channels, then please just check it. And if you're not, I'd really appreciate that. It costs you nothing, but it makes a big difference to me if I can get to 5k. And I'm hoping to try and do that before I post my next video, which will be on Monday on that channel. And I'm going to do a giveaway. If you think you're moving now, it's because one of my cats has arrived. He wants to say hello. This is Mr. Colin Waffles. Hello. So I'm going to do a giveaway as soon as I get to 5k on my other channel. So do go and check that out. That would be really appreciated. And I'm going to say goodbye for now until next time. And don't forget, as I say, check out my other channel. And I'll see you either here next Friday or Monday and Wednesday at a later time on my other channel for lives there. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.